So we are ready to broadcast our. So
Yes,
over to Sardia.
just wait a few minutes. I'm going just sharing the live stream on different groups.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. Zishan, you are co-host now.
Okay.
So in case I will be offline, so you can manage. Sardia is also co-host.
Okay, let's begin. What we are going to do is we have two very accomplished people joining us in this Saturday class. One is Zishan Hanif, and the other one is Hassan, who is the lead for Penacloud CLI group, or Penacloud Tools group, and the other one is Zishan Hanif, who is the CTO of Penacloud. Penacloud is developing tools for API developers. Zishan, are you available?
Yes.
Zishan, could you explain what is the idea behind
What is the
what is the idea behind Penacloud new tools? How is it connected to blockchain? How is it connected to cloud and so on?
basically to understand what Penacloud tools or the tool set is going to do, or what the tool we have released just today is going to do, is first we need to understand the pain points of the developers. The pain point for the developers, if we go through a storyline. So if I'm a developer, I wanted to develop an application, so I have to think about few things. First, in what technology I'll be building the client side, what technology I'll be choosing for the server, what database I'm going to use. And these three things are the few. There are other things, but basically you have to pick these three to identify that what you are going to do. So for client side, let's say if you choose the React or Angular or any other client library, what you have to do is you have to create first a basic structure of your application. We have a tools like for the React, we have a create React app tool, which just give you the basic app.js and a component in home component, and that's it. There is nothing else. It's just a basic structure. It does not give you the complete architecture of an application. What you have to do is you have to create the stores. If you wanted to use Redux, you have to create the routing, you have to create the UI, all those things before starting to implement basic use case. Even for the login, before starting to implement the login, what you have to do is you have to do lot of work, ample amount of work, just to set up your application, create the architecture of your application. This is on the client side. Let alone when you go for the server side, what happened is the problem gets tenfold complicated for the server side. When you wanted to develop an application, let's say we choose that we wanted to use the Node.js, we wanted to use monolithic Node.js application. So even for the monolithic application, we have tools, let's Express, which will create a basic structure. It will not have much. You will not have the database connection, you will not have the architecture, you will not have where the things to be placed, what the data model will be. These are the basic things that you need to do. So you will start implementing it. First, you have to set up your architecture, the architecture that needs to be implemented to start your application, just to start writing your first use case or your first line of code towards your application. You need to do this. And again, if you go for the serverless application, this problem again gets multifold complicated, because you have to think different Lambda functions, how the serverless database should work, how the architecture of this complex level of application needs to be built. So these are few things that you need to think initially and implement. So before writing anything, you have to write ample amount of code just to start your application, just your application to run. You have to make a database connection, you have to set up and everything, architecture, which function should go there, which function should go there. On server side, there are very less tools, or very few, or kind of you can say almost none to exist, that that gave you the structure or architecture of your application. Now this is what you are talking about at the basic level of application. Comes what the idea Penacloud is preaching is API economy. So we were discussing in our previous bootcamp as well that what need to do is we need to create the API first application instead of just creating the application, which should create whole application, front end, server and back end, everything by yourself. You can be the API first company like the Stripe and everything. So now what you have to do is you have to think about the in terms of API, how you need to write the API, all those things needs to be done. So problem is all these problems needs to be addressed before you write your first line of code towards the use case of your application. To solve these things, what you have to do is you need to have some boilerplate, some tools that can help you set up all those things. If you have some tools, what they do is they have a basic level of a structure. They do not give the complete detail. Another thing I just forgot, once you set up the architecture, you have to write the test cases. When you write the test cases, you need to have the mock data of the test cases. That's also needs to be implemented. All those things, these things needs to be taken into consideration even if you are writing a basic application. Why? Because if you do not have the habit of writing a proper scalable architectured application from the day one, you will not be able to write that in future as well when you really need it. So these things needs to be in place. Now, what Penacloud toolset is trying to do? What Penacloud toolset is trying to do is to give you the somewhat opinionated CLI tool that can help you set up the complete architecture towards your for your application. So you do not have to write all those boilerplate codes, and even you have choices of multiple options, like what database you wanted to use. So first of all, what toolset the specifically, if we talk about the CLI toolset, what this CLI toolset does is it gives you the option to create the serverless application, because moving towards in future there will be a era of only serverless application. Monolithic application will go fades, and there'll be no more future for the monolithic application until you have the existing application or a legacy system. So what you have to do is you have to go for the serverless, and at this moment AWS has the 80 to 90% share of the market. So Penacloud CLI tool, what's trying to do is basically, or the tools we will write in future, which Sazia has mentioned about the blockchain and everything, that it gives you the facility to write your application. So you do not have to worry about the architecture. Architecture will be will be provided by these two tools, and you just have to move directly towards your code. So the CLI tool will give you directly the architecture of serverless application on AWS, and everything will be set up. If you choose if you choose DynamoDB, if you choose Aurora serverless or a Neptune database, so you have the option to select the database. You have the option to create the application architecture. You just provide the basic level of API, your APIs, what you wanted to do. Let's say you wanted to create an application with GraphQL or REST API. So you can choose if you wanted to go with the GraphQL or REST API. If you select the GraphQL, which Penacloud CLI tool currently supports, so you just have to create the mutation and the queries structure in GraphQL file, and you provide this file to the tool. This tool will generates everything: architecture, database connection, test cases, mock data, mock servers, everything will be there. And from the minute you run the Penacloud CLI tool, everything will be there. You just have to write your code, and you don't have to write. Let's say you talk about you wanted to create a to-do application. So you have to think about, you have to add to-do task, you have the update to do, you have delete to do, you have read to do task. So you have to write few functions to write. You don't have to write those functions, because Penacloud CLI tool will read that your GraphQL and generate all those functions for you. You just have to write the code inside those functions. Obviously, we are not smart enough to write artificial intelligence code for these things, but all these things will be generated, and you will have a complete architectured application which is scalable, which is reliable, and based on serverless application and everything. So this is the one tool we are talking about. So all the pain the developer is going through to set up a scalable large application for serverless architecture, it's already there. You just have to go and write your specific code. That's what Penacloud is trying to achieve, and we have achieved it somewhat.
Thank you so much. Now I'd like to introduce Hassan. Are you there?
Yes, sir.
Hassan is our star developer. He is going to be the pride of Pakistan in the future. And would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. So basically, my name is Mohammed Hassan, and I'm currently working as a lead Penacloud tools at Penacloud. I'm currently pursuing intermediate at V Public High School, and that's it.
He's very young, and this is the first time he's speaking in public. But just believe me, he's an ace developer. He's going to. Would you like to please share your screen? Tell us how Penacloud CLI tool. How are the participants going to install the Penacloud CLI tool, and how they are going to use it. From next class, Zishan is going to start teaching blockchain and Solidity programming language. But today we are going to just cover Penacloud CLI tool. Yes, Hassan, go forward.
To install the CLI, you will npm. So basically, this is the command to install CLI globally, Penacloud CLI globally. I have already installed it, so I will not go further. You can basically install by entering this command. So should I make a topic?
Zishan,
Hassan, can you please
Except for-
increase the size of the screen? It's very
Yes.
reduced in size.
So you were saying something.
Zishan, would you please mute everyone except Hassan?
Sure. Just a moment.
Is the size okay now?
Yes.
To install Penacloud CLI, you will need to write npm @penacloud/CLI -g to install Penacloud CLI globally.
Hassan, you will have to speak a little bit louder.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
To install Penacloud CLI, you will have to use this command npmi@penacloud/CLI-b. It will basically install CLI globally. I have already installed it, so I will not like go further now. You can install the CLI. Sir, should I create a new project?
Yes, yes. Go ahead and tell us about the commands and how to use it. And
Yes, please. How we can use it? Kindly tell us.
Okay. So I'm creating a new folder, empty folder. To generate a boilerplate, to get started with using Penacloud CLI, you will have to enter Penacloud CLI in it. It's basically gives you the more than a boilerplate to get started with making APIs and everything. I'm going to use this schema for now. It's a to-do schema.
We cannot see your
basically,
screen if
Hassan,
you
you are
have.
saying you just need you are basically using API design first philosophy. So therefore, you just create a API schema, GraphQL schema, and give it to this tool. It will create the APIs. Am I right?
Yes. Are you able to see the screen?
Just to correct me, what I understand till now, this CLI will automatically generate all APIs, and we will expose them for our front ends, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So
Very
can you detail how any example here, if you
Yes,
want?
that's what we are doing.
So this is the schema I'm going to use to generate a code. Uh, it's a to-do schema. To do to generate a boilerplate, you will need to enter Penacloud in it. So you will have to provide a schema path where your GraphQL schema is situated. Whatever you want to name your API. For now, I'm going with the default, my API. You can select multiple databases, uh, DynamoDB, NetDB, Aurora Serverless. For now, I'm going with DynamoDB. And the code is generating.
Hassan, do we have multiple databases listed here, like Oracle, MySQL, Postgre?
Yes,
Yeah.
we have given you three choices.
Database.
Either you are select a NoSQL database or graph database Neptune or relational database Aurora.
Great.
Right now, it's generating the entire application and installing all the dependencies.
So it seems quite heavy.
No, most of the time is basically it is running npm install.
Code is in it.
Basically, if you install just a few libraries, it becomes heavy because node modules do a lot of things. So these are the problems with the node modules, but definitely you need to use them.
So here's a generated code. Let's start with the file. So this is the main stack file. It contains, basically we have divided database and appsing into separate concepts, and they are initialized over here. This is the DynamoDB construct. Here's the DynamoDB table. It is initialized over here. It's appsing concept. Here's the schema and adding data source Lambda, creating resolvers, this is Lambda layer, mock Lambda layer. Oh, sorry. This is the real Lambda's Lambda layer. This is a mock Lambda layer, and get to dos, add to dos, and delete to dos functions are defined over here, and we are granting full access for DynamoDB, and appsing concept is initialized over here. If you go in mock lambdas, we have add to do, delete to do, and basically all the queries and mutations lambdas over here. So here is a simple logic. It is a mock lambda, so what we are doing is we have generated mock data for every query and mutation. So as you can see here, it has arguments and response. This is a mock data generated by CLI that is being used over here. We are just looping on the mock data, and whatever argument is passed,
Now let me, Hassan, just give a little bit background for people who do not have a background. The thing is, previously we used to define APIs, for example, in Express using Node.js. And this used to run on a local machine, and then it used to run on a server or hosting server. But now in the new age, we are using AWS services, Lambda functions, AppSync, which is a different technology for GraphQL databases, and basically a lot of different constructs, cloud constructs. The benefit is that you basically get infinite scalability as well as serverless functionality. By serverless, I mean you are only charged for what you use. And second thing is you basically have infinite scalability. So therefore, now, but how do you construct these APIs? Normally, what you do is in AWS, you go to a web, their website and basically select different things. It will take you a day or two to define all these things. For sure, a few hours. And after you have done it, it is not repeatable. You forget about it. So therefore, a new class of tools came along, which are called infrastructure as code. Infrastructure as code is the first step. Now, we selected AWS because right now it has got 60-70% of the market. In the future, Zishan has a plan to implement and Hassan has a plan to implement Azure as well as Google Cloud. Right now, we are starting because it has 60-70% of the market. We are starting with AWS services. Now, for infrastructure as code, we are using CDK, which is Cloud Development Kit. You can write that code in any language you want. There are 3 or 4 options available. So therefore, we are writing Lambda functions, which is business logic in TypeScript. And we are also writing the infrastructure as code, which is the CDK code in TypeScript. Now, all this thing is automatically just our tool, just by looking at the schema of a GraphQL APIs, can generate all the infrastructure code as well as the business logic. Everything. It does it for you. As Hassan and his team basically iterate over the development, today is our first announcement. He is going to completely, continuously improve on these tools. And in the next few months, even now for AWS, now in order to do documentation, what you do is go to the website, sorry, GitHub URL, and in the tutorial section, you will get all the details. Now, the second thing you have to understand is the structure. Hassan, could you please explain the structure of the directory? What is this editable source and what are the different things we are talking about? There's a lot of code being generated.
Okay, so whatever is in the root file, except the editable SRC, is going to be generated. Like mock lambda layer and lib file. Whenever you want to, like, whenever you have made some changes in schema or config file, except editable SRC, lib mock lambda and mock lambda layer folders code will be regenerated. In editable SRC, if you want to update something in the stack, or if you want to update something in stack, you will have to use visitor pattern to update, or if you want to add anything new, you can add it over here. We have custom mock lambda layer where you can basically write your own mock data and install your own dependencies for mock lambdas. Here's a schema. You can change your schema over here. And lambda stuff. These are basically real lambdas. These are real lambdas, and this lambda layer is for real lambdas. It is a Penacloud config where you can change the configuration of real lambdas, mock lambdas, whatever lambda you want to use. So in the lib folder, there will be concept and stack. For whatever database you select, there will be a concept for that, and absent concept, because for now we are only supporting GraphQL. And in the stack, there will be lambda functions, lambda layers, and absent and dynamically initialized. In mock lambda layer, these all lambda functions are mocked. this can be used for until the production lambdas are not ready. You can use these lambdas for front end.
Very nicely said, Hassan. Let me repeat it just for revision, and then Ovaz and Zishan are also going to repeat the whole thing so that you really understand. The thing is, think about this thing. In the new kind of applications we are building on the cloud, there are two types of code. One is infrastructure as code. The other one is business logic as code. On one part, you have the infrastructure code, which tells basically AWS to basically create a app sync, connect a Lambda function to it, and so on. This is called infrastructure as code. The other part is the business logic, which you write in the Lambda functions. So therefore, the first distinction between code is these two things. Then our tool also distinguishes between two other kinds of concepts, two other kind of code, which can be both of them at the same time. What do you mean? What do I mean by it? One is the code which the tool generates, and the other is the code which depends on you, what you write. So if you look at the editable source directory right here, in the editable source directory, the user can change the code in the editable source. Why is this required? Because right now you have just created Penacloud in it. But let's say this is not how you develop applications. In order to develop applications, what you do is basically initially maybe have 2 or 3 APIs. But as you go along, you increase the API. That means you basically continuously add more stuff to the GraphQL schema. Every time you update the schema, basically you give an update command. Right now, we just gave one command, Penacloud init. So therefore, there are two kinds of things. In the update command, if you give the command, it will not touch the editable source. Otherwise, it will overwrite. Rest of the code can be overwritten by the tool. But editable source will not be overwritten by the tool. So before we go forward, let me summarize and pass it on to Zishan. Zishan will explain it much better than I can. Two kinds of code, infrastructure as code and business logic code. Then code which can be edited by the user and code which cannot be edited by the user because the tool might override it in the update command. Zishan, over to you.
Okay, so what we need to understand is whenever we write an application, so in case if before the infrastructure as a service and all those things, before that what we were doing is we were creating a sample application, like we create an application with Node.js, which is a monolithic application. It's just a server, and we just deploy that application on Heroku or any other server. So that's our simple code. It has nothing else. It's just application. It has our code, and we just deploy it. With the services like AWS, Azure, and
Zishan, we lost your voice.
yeah, can you hear me now?
Now, it's back.
Okay, so with the AWS, Azure, and services which provide the infrastructure, so what you have to do is you do not have to worry about the scalability of your application. You do not have to run your service or your application continuously. These services or these platforms like AWS, Google, and Azure, what they did is they have given you the different services. So you have Lambda service, you have the database service, you have app sync service, you have routing service, and many other whatnot. There are around 200 services in AWS. So when you try to use all those services, so the problem is when you try to use these services, you have to integrate these services into your code. That's where comes in the infrastructure as a code. To set up and everything, just go to the interface of AWS, write, upload the lambdas, create the database on the interface, create the AppSync instance on the interface. That will be quite segregated manual effort. So what the Terraform and AWS, all those services, what they did is they given you the centralized structure. In AWS, it is called the cloud formation. And what you do is you just write a code which says create a Lambda, create database, create AppSync, all those things. So all those things, these things are infrastructure as a code. Basically, you are setting up an infrastructure on AWS server. So that's the infrastructure code, but it does not include your business logic. That's the separate thing. That's your code which you write inside the Lambda functions. So first, when we talk about these infrastructure as a services, so we have to write the code for infrastructure setting up. Otherwise, you will have to do everything manually. So you have to write the code to set up everything. That's what we use CDK for. In CDK, we write the infrastructure's code. So CDK setups all your infrastructure with Lambda and everything. Now, once you write this infrastructure, in that infrastructure, you have your Lambda functions, and inside those Lambda function, you write your code, your basic the code you are writing. So now that's what you can do with the AWS CDK. Now, Penacloud CLI, what Penacloud CLI tried to do is it gives you the another layer of abstraction. What you can do is, once Penacloud CLI generates your API, you write the GraphQL API, you give to the CLI tool, it will generate all the infrastructure as a code. So you do not have to write the CDK code to set up the Lambda, to set up the database, to set up all those things. The basic level or in somewhat advanced level of all those constructs are already there, done by Penacloud CLI. So your infrastructure code is written by the Penacloud. Then for your business logic, you have to, your Lambdas, your database connections, everything is also there. Now you have generated all this code. Definitely you have to edit, you have to add your business logic. So you will go and you have to edit Lambda functions and start writing your business logic to do what you have to do for the editable to add to do into the database. So you have to write this business logic into your code. Once you add this code, the code generated by CLI will be freeze, because that will be the problem. If we generate everything again, your changes will be lost. So what Penacloud CLI is doing is, Penacloud CLI is giving you the separation between the code generated by CLI and the code available for you to edit. So everything you want, anything you wanted to edit will be in the folder called editable SRC. And everything that is generated by CLI, it will be outside of this editable code. Initially, this editable SRC will also be generated by Penacloud CLI, but then let's say in to-do application, initially when you provide the GraphQL API, you just mention the add to-do and delete to-do. You have not added the update to-do. Now, once the code has been generated, what you have to do is you wanted to add the update to-do code API. So what you will do is you will just update your GraphQL schema, and you will run Penacloud update command. What Penacloud update command will do is it will generate everything again. Now, it will generate everything again except for the editable SRC. So all your structures, all your types, all your Lambda functions, all your architecture will be updated. Maybe you have added the 10, 20 or 30 APIs. So all this will be there. The code you have edited inside editable SRC will not be touched. So the code you have written will be there, and then you can add more code into it. So that's why Penacloud CLI, it separates the code generated by CLI and the code that a developer can edit, because definitely we will not just want to set up the architecture, we wanted to write business logic itself. So that's everything will be in editable SRC, and then you will update all those things. Let's say you have the Lambda stubs function, Lambda layer functions, and the aspects. So everything, and the custom mock Lambda, you anything you wanted to change, you will do in editable SRC. You will not touch anything outside the editable SRC, because that will be regenerated once you call the Penacloud update. That's what.
So
Thank you so much.
Zishan bhai,
Sir,
technically would be we will be editing only two files, the GraphQL schema, and we will be handling the editable SRC and nothing else.
It's not the
GraphQL
two
schema
files.
is also in the editable source.
You will be editing the GraphQL schema, but editable
yeah.
SRC is a complete folder. It has many it has aspects, it has Lambda, it has mocks, everything you will be editing. You can be editing.
Okay.
Sir, what about the node modules? Will they will be generated again from scratch, or use the previous node modules?
Basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to update. So when you are updating, everything is regenerated. So to generate everything, maybe we need some other libraries. So that's why the installation will be done again.
Any other question? Ovais, would you like to? Yes, go ahead.
Sir, can you little bit explain again about the editable SRC?
Yes, in the editable SRC, as you can see on the screen, we have aspects directory, custom mock Lambda layer, GraphQL schema, and Lambda stubs. The most important ones are the Lambda stubs, which has the real Lambdas, and the schema, GraphQL schema directory in editable source. When you generate it, you will learn, because in the first directory, you will not have a difficulty in understanding. Ovais, would you like to summarize before we come back to Hassan?
Yeah, sure, sir. Actually, as Sir Zia and Sir Zishan already talked briefly about the tool and the structure of the Penacloud CLI. Basically, it just makes the developer life easy. As Sir Zishan has just explained that what is the difference between the infrastructure as a code and the business logic as a code. And then in the Penacloud CLI, you just have to add, you have to just create your idea and what you want to build on, like what API you want to build. And you have to just install and use the tool. And using that tool, it makes your life easier to just, because at the architecture side, you already have those architecture found in your folder. So what you have to do is just go and write your business logic in that and update and upload your stack to the AWS. So it will easier for the developer side. And related to the folder structure, as Zishan and Sazia has just already said, that what you have to do is you have to do and work on the editable source for you for your working side. You do not have to do anything related to other folders, because when you run and try to update anything, it will override your all over code. So it's not good for you. So what you have to do is go and write all your code in the editable source. So just do and follow, and you can also find the documentation and tutorial stuff at the NPM, which is the official installation guide on the internet available.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Hassan, are you there?
Yes.
Sir, can you tell me about the, sir, when we are trying to update schema of GraphQL, sir, what the Penacloud CLI does, it will regenerate all of the business logic for infrastructure code. Am I correct, sir?
Yes. Anything which is not inside editable source directory, it will regenerate.
Sir, for example, take an example of the to-do app. When we trying to add new function like remove to-do, when we add the schema of remove to-do, after the Penacloud update, they will take my schema and update the whole coding for the infrastructure. Am I correct, sir?
Yes. Yes, correct.
Thank you. So basically, we have no need to write and more about the infrastructure as a code like AWS Lambdas, database structures. They will all done by the Penacloud CLI.
Yes.
It's make the life of developer much too easy.
Yes, that's the whole point. Hassan, are you there? Now let me, I think Hassan had to go somewhere. He has, I think, had getting some internet issues. Now let me explain it again. We have two commands, Penacloud init and Penacloud update. Now let's see, we have a schema. We have a schema in which we have just two methods, two queries. Maybe one is a mutation and one is a query. As we make that schema, GraphQL schema, I'm assuming you already know what a GraphQL schema is. What you do is take that schema with two methods, one query and one mutation, and run Penacloud init, given and tell it to generate code for this schema. Once that schema is done, now you have a main root directory, which you cannot change. In that directory, you have a subdirectory called edit source, editable source. In that editable source, you can make, you are going to add your code. The infrastructure code is going to be outside that editable source. And your business logic basically is going to be inside that editable source. In the stubs, Lambda stubs, you have all the Lambda functions. Now, by default, we have also created test Lambdas, mock. And that mock Lambdas basically generate some standard responses. And in those standard responses, basically, if you want to now develop your own Lambda functions, what you do is change the Penacloud config.json file, tell it to use the Lambdas differently. And then what you do is basically call a Penacloud update. Hassan, can you show us, make some changes to the schema and call the Penacloud update on the screen so that everybody knows what is happening?
So I have added a new mutation update to do. Now I'm going to run Penacloud update.
Before calling update, Hassan, can you show the Lambdas currently we have?
Okay. So we have 3 Lambdas over here in editable SRC and 3 Lambdas in mock Lambda. Add to do, get to do, and delete to do.
So we don't have update.
Now I'm running Penacloud update.
Sir, can you tell me what is the difference between mock lambdas and your normal lambda steps?
Basically, these are the test cases. So when you wanted to test the application, so you need to have a mock lambda function so that you can test the application instead of deploying the functionality directly to the servers on AWS.
The thing is, mock lambdas, you think about it, mock lambdas basically return dummy data. And in the real lambda, which is called stubs, technically there are two concepts in server development. One are called mocks and the other one are called stubs. Mocks are basically complete lambdas with predefined code, which is all mock. But stubs, they don't return anything. Basically, and are lambda functions, which you write your code so that you get code from the database. Basically, get code from the database and return that. But you will have and do some business logic that you have to write yourself stubs. Mocks are written automatically by the CLI tool, and the stubs you will basically write yourself. Yes, Hassan, could you explain it?
So code is now updated. As you can see in mock lambda, there is new folder, update to do. There is new lambda was here, and also an editable SRC in lambda stub. New lambda is added. Update to do.
Now, if you want to, this is the first stuff. Now, even now, if you look at the Penacloud Penacloud config.json, can you show us, Hassan, Penacloud config.json? This is an editable source. Can you, Hassan, explain what this file is telling us?
So this why, as you can see, there are all the lambdas are mentioned over here, and this is asset path. It's basically the relative path of lambda. So where the lambda is situated, and is mock. Is mock means like is it is it is currently mock or not. So if you make it false, the mock lambda layer will be detached, and the real lambda layer will be attached, and you will have to change the path whenever you want to go for real lambdas.
So real lambdas would be the stubs.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, Hassan, if you just wanted to change one lambda, the first one, get to do's to the real lambda, what will you do?
I will change the asset path and also make calls to this mock.
Go ahead, please.
As you can see, I've changed the path and also make is mock false, and now I'm going to run Penacloud update. Also, as you can see, before running Penacloud update, you can see the path of from get to do's lambda and layer. Currently, the mock lambda layer is attached to it. I've run Penacloud update. So as you can see, now the path has been updated. It is shift to real editable SRC / lambda, there's lambda stubs and get to do, and also the layer has been changed. It is now the editable SRC lambda layer, which is a real lambda layer.
Marvelous, marvelous. So therefore, as we can see, we can basically go from mock lambdas, which are automatically generated by the CLI, to actual lambdas. Can you show us the structure of a lambda stub?
So this is a handler function, and here is a get to do method, where for now we are just returning the mock data. So whenever you have completed the business logic here, you can remove the return and replace your return by the real business logical return.
Basically, you write your database code and your in get to do's method, which is basically called by the Lambda function. Am I right?
Yes.
And let's move forward. Where's any questions, any commentary before we move forward?
All
Okay.
good, sir.
Okay, okay,
Basically,
let's
you
move
have
forward.
still need to write the server.
Of course. There's no way CLI tool can generate the business logic for you.
Yes, sir. Okay. Basically, we need only the server code, and infrastructure code will automatically deployed by the CLI. Am I right,
Yes.
sir?
Yes. Now let's go back to Penacloud config.json.
Sir, one thing for the students. Sir, we have used the cockroach DB for the Aurora serverless. So if here we will select the Aurora DB, so the students, the issue would be the same. The Aurora would be charging, AWS would be charging for the Aurora too much.
It's not too much. The
Okay.
thing is a serverless database, Aurora serverless, it will only charge when you make a call.
Okay.
Now, what are these stages? Rishan, could you explain what do you mean by stages?
Basically, again, it's whenever we write an application, generally what we do is once we write a code, we don't directly deploy it on a production server. What we do is we create a dev server, and sometimes we have a a dev server, which is for the purely for the developer. So each individual dev server. Then we have a test server. Then again, we have a dev server for the final testing. Then we move towards the production database. So these are few stages between you go to the production. So what you do is when you write a code, you don't directly just, okay, I have written the code, it's working and at my machine, I have seen everything, just release it. That don't go with the way we should work. So what you have to do is once you write a code, you have to deploy your code on the test server or a dev server. The dev server, the architecture, infrastructure of a dev server will be separate from the production server, because once you release something, after that, as you start updating, adding new functionality into your application, what you have to do is you have to test them as well. So your application already in the production, version 1 is already in release. So what you can do, how you will be testing in the production like environment, you don't have the everything for AWS at your machine. So you have to deploy on your dev server the, let's say, version 1.1 or version 1.2. So before going to the production, you have to go for the dev server or a test server where we can test our application in the production like environment, run everything, test everything, and then when everything is done, we go for the production. So we need to have stages before going to the production. So there can you can name it anything. You can say the test server, dev server, and prod server. You can say individual dev server, test server, then dev server, then prod server. That's what you can name it anything. But the important thing is before going to the production, you have intermediary stages where you have production like environment and you test your application. And once you are sure that everything is done, everything is fine, then you can go for the production server and update your production server with the updated release. So that's why we need different stages of your application code.
As you can see from Hassan's code, in the we have two kind of stages, which is production and dev. You can add as many as you want by just adding in front of the thing in the array. If you add another name and then call Penacloud update, it will update another server, just like Hassan is doing right now. You can, and Hassan, can you show us how do you deploy? For example, if I want to deploy in the dev server, what command do I give?
You will have to write npm run deploy dash dev. Basically,
Can you
whatever stage you want to deploy, you can just deploy dash stage name.
these scripts are in the npm project.json? Can you show that?
Yes.
So you just say npm run deploy dev, npm run deploy product, PRD, or whatever. Or if you want to destroy it, you say npm destroy dev. Am I right?
Yes. Yes.
So you can see that how easy it becomes to have different production servers and developer servers. You can even, why don't you, Hassan, add another stage as you had already done and call update. Let's see what happens.
So I have added another stage called hello. I'm running Penacloud update. So here you can see pages are now updated. In bucket.json, you will be able to see new, two new scripts are added. One is deploy dash hello, and another one is destroy dash hello.
Now, after deploying, because it takes too much time to deploy, we will not do it in the class. After you have deployed, you can also test it by saying Penacloud client. What is that command?
Yeah. Penacloud client. So it will open a GraphQL client on localhost where you will be able to test all your queries and mutations.
Right now, there's nothing deployed, so therefore it won't do anything.
Yes. Also, there is another command, Penacloud status. It will just like it will be giving me information about which stack is which stage is deployed and the credentials of that stack, stuff like that.
Could you run it?
So, sir, there is no stage deployed.
Okay. Okay. No, it will show that both of them are not deployed. Yes. There's nothing deployed. Yes. So this way, you can do a lot of different things. I hope we have given a brief description of the Penacloud CLI. Now we will move to the second part of the thing. Hassan, you have done a marvelous job for explaining to us, and you have written a marvelous code and marvelous tool for the developers. In the next few months, we are going to mature this product, and all of you are invited to join this open source effort. You can always talk to Hassan. You can make a pull request to Hassan, and you can become a contributor to this project, and it will be going to your resume, and it will help you land jobs, and it will increase your portfolio strength. Now, Zishan, CLI Hassan will be continued. Zishan is working another part of the project. I'd written in the announcement, what has API to do, Zishan? How are APIs connected to NFT or DAO or blockchain or tokens. Could you explain how are you using the blockchain technology to enhance the API ecosystem?
Basically, there are multiple ways we can one single use case scenario. First, we need to understand that when we talk about the blockchain has no interaction with external world. So when you write in a smart contract, you write any blockchain application, you cannot talk to any external world from the blockchain because it's in a decentralized system. If you talk to the external world, that means you will be calling some HTTP API. So if you wanted to call an HTTP API, so blockchain as a base, as a foundational point of view, blockchain does not have provide anything which can be done by calling the API to the external server, because it will be the central server and all the concept of decentralization will die. Now, so that means you cannot talk to the external server, but there are many things which are coming from the external servers, external world, that really need it. Let's say you wanted to get some information from the related to the API, related to the weather update, related to the price of some information. You wanted to get the cricket update, you wanted to get the information to for, let's say, what you say, in the IoT world, you wanted to get the information of your smart home devices. So for that, you need somehow to connect to your external server. So one of the case by calling an API which is provided by a specific blockchain platform.
Dishan, you are hanging up.
World in a decentralized way. And am I hanging? Okay, just a moment. Previously, there was no such issues.
No, sir, kindly
it's better
just
now.
Just few sentences.
Yes, go ahead, Zishan.
Kindly repeat few sentences.
Okay. So what happened is, so you cannot talk to the external world because of it will break the decentralized concept. So what Chainlink has done is Chainlink given us a facility to contact to the external world in a decentralized way. So Chainlink has provided us the features. So what you can do is you can call your APIs or on your servers using the Chainlink, and you can communicate with your server. So this is the one thing what you can do with the API by calling your API from your smart contract and getting the information or data inside your contract. So one is this. Another is you can create an hybrid application. So you don't need to keep everything inside the blockchain. So what you need to keep inside blockchain is something which needs to be which should be or needs to be a trustless environment. Whenever you wanted to create something which is need to keep in a decentralized way, should be in the blockchain. Other things, there are many things which can be kept on these centralized servers, and there are applications which is doing both of these things. So what you can do is you can cap some of part of your application into your centralized server. So for that you need your API, and you can call the API and store into the database, and some part of the application that is stored on the blockchain. So you want staking, or you wanted to do any what you say, calling the NFT, generating the data, all those things can be stored in the blockchain. So there are two things you can do with communicate with the API using the Chainlink to talk to blockchain, can talk to external world, and you can create an hybrid application which can talk to two features: the blockchain and the centralized servers.
Zishan, thank you so much. Now let me tell you the business case of it. What Zishan is doing is basically, let's say, if you have an API, how are you going to basically raise funds for that API? Normally, you go to a VC, but now what we are doing is, in the near future, Zishan is building on basically starter website for API developers so that they can basically ask for funding and crowdfunding should go into it. The second application of blockchain is that each API is usually managed by companies, but in a decentralized one, it is managed by DAO. What it does, it gives the confidence of the API users that the API is not owned by a particular person who can discontinue it whenever he wants. So therefore, the DAO will help us in that. So therefore, from the next class, Zishan is going to teach us about from a repository, which we have already shared on our website. He is going to start teaching about blockchain and the related technologies. And the CLI tool will basically connect to that in the later stages. Any questions? I know it's a lot of things to digest. It's a bit tough. A lot of things, new things. With infrastructure as code, with cloud, with blockchains. And we have not even started talking about AI and IoT and other stuff. Even now it is quite tough. Wes, would you like to revise the whole thing?
Each of these fields has its own depth.
Yes.
Sir, would we be going through a single example in the next class, or we have to practice it by ourselves?
You have to practice it by yourself. You have to practice it by yourself. And if you have run into any issue, just create an issue on the Penacloud CLI website, GitHub repository.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Wes, would you like to? Yes, somebody just mentioned we are moving towards full DeFi. Yes, we are taking the whole API economy and the developer ecosystem towards DeFi. Yes, that's what we are doing. Yes, Wes.
Well, yeah, actually the purpose of today's class is to explain you guys that what Penacloud is doing and what it's meant to be do in the future. As we have just discussed that we have developed a tool for the developer to create an API in a very easy way. After you have created your API, what will you do? You have to raise your money. You have to be in the market where you can publish your API, right? And you can raise funds for your API. So in the near future, inshallah, Penacloud is also doing those stuff, and they are, and in the coming days, you will also hear about us that you have a kind of website, a portal where you can, create and publish your API there, and raise fund from there. So we are creating a community where developers can develop their APIs, publish their APIs, and raise fund for their APIs, and many more things, inshallah, in the near future. Thank you.
Yeah, so as you describe it very succinctly and very powerfully. Now, I invite all of you to join the project. It is open to everyone. It's an open source project. What you just have to do is learn, if you are basically learn, what do you call, making pull requests. That's all you have to learn. And you have to understand the code. The whole code is online. I basically instruct all my students. You can ask Wes. I continuously, whenever I meet him, I tell him this thing. Without a portfolio, a developer is nothing. Talk is cheap. Anybody can say that he's a very good developer. Even I said sometimes that I'm a very good developer. At least I think so. But the only thing which talks is a portfolio and your commits. So therefore, I've always asked developers to participate in open source projects. In this case, the open source projects are led by your fellow developers, and basically join them. If Hassan, which is only 17 years old, and right now just in high school, can do this for sure, I can do it. The only thing is required is a lot of focus on development. It is not easy development. But that's the best part of it. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. It is tough, that's why we do it. That's why Zishan has the value he has, because he takes on very tough assignments, which nobody else does. They run away. But Zishan always stands and delivers. So therefore, from next class, we will start looking into blockchain, and from time to time, as new releases are released by Penacloud CLI team and the open source developers, we will continuously visit these concepts and visit Penacloud CLI and see what the updates are and other Penacloud tools. But first, we have to learn the blockchain technology from Zishan from next class. And of course, we will, Ovais, I, Anis Bhai, and everybody will also contribute in their own way. So see you guys in the next class, next Saturday, and the Urdu section will be held tomorrow at 9:30, in which Mateen, which is also a CLI tool developer, will tell you about in Urdu. In English section, today was the day for the Penacloud CLI. Thank you so very much, and bye-bye.
Allah Hafiz.